them sing this song, Testify Love, in person. The Holy Spirit was in that place when this team was playing. Yes, Avalon just released a brand new CD this month, after 10 years um, of not having one. So check it out. You can go to YouTube and look up Avalon, and I think you can go to Avalon Music or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, they're like one of my favorite groups. I think I have almost everything that they have done. Actually, let me tell you. I can tell you what their website is. Um, well, let's see. Actually, why is this? Well, anyway. Yeah, just check Apple Music. Avalon announces new called album and tour. They actually did that last year, but actually, it just came out. So, yeah, just Google it. You'll find it. All right. Anyway, hey, everybody. It's been a couple of days since we've last been together virtually. I don't know about you, but I live offline more than I do online. When I did this show every day, I lived online more than I do now, which was kind of nice to live offline once in a while. Anyway, DG, nice to see you, and thank you for the compliment on the singing. Here's a little fun fact about your sweet and lovable host. When I was a freshman in high school, um, I joined choir, and that's actually how I became a Christian, was through a fellow classmate uh, who was in choir. She shared the gospel with me. But there was a group called Chamber Singers, which was only a group that the only people that could apply to that group was um, juniors and seniors. Nobody else could come in it. Well, Donna Baylor, who was my choir teacher in that class, thought that my voice was exceptional, so she lobbied to get me in that class and get me in the chamber choir. And so, even though I was younger, they let me in. And in Riverside, California, where I grew up, there is a place called the Mission Inn. And the Mission Inn is you can Google it. Just Google Mission Inn, Riverside, California. You'll see it's a very well known mission. And anyway, the chamber singers were supposed to go sing at the Mission Inn, which was like a high honor. I mean, it was like a complete high honor to go and sing there. And so I was actually in the very first chamber choir to ever perform at the Mission Inn when I was about 14 years old, because I could sing well. So thank you for the compliment. And it's funny because as I've gotten older, and this is how Randall and I met actually. I mean, we met at church, but we kind of we got closer because of music, and I wrote some songs and he arranged them, and then we sang um, and all that. So and my mom had a lovely singing voice. You would have never known it if you had known her just as a person, like outside of her trying to sing at all. But I would listen to my mom sing in the car a lot because that's what she liked to do. She loved country music for whatever reason. She loved the organ. I don't know. I don't get it. Don't ask me. I don't know how anybody can love the organ. I mean, it's not like it's a horrible instrument, but it's just like so like, it's just yeah. Anyway. Anyway, thank you for the compliment. All I have to say, thank you for the compliment. And it's funny because as I've gotten older, my voice has changed, obviously. I can't sing the higher notes like I used to sing, but I think I do pretty well. So, hey, do you want to get on camera, Mr.
Who,
Bareface?
me?
Yeah, you. My nose all of a sudden itches. Dang it. You,
Well,
there
because
you
you're
go.
on the air. That's usually what
That's usually
happens.
what happens. Yeah.
I'm sure there's some sort of psychological
That's probably it. So YouTube
explanation
isn't
for that.
working at all?
It is now.
Oh, it is? Okay, so should we say hi? I see Aaron over there well, I already said the hi to the two people who can see us on Periscope. Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, so
Yeah, it
let's,
was an interrupted
and
broadcast on
If you're
Both
on,
YouTube and Twitch, I had to reconnect.
okay, so if you're on YouTube and you're live and you want to say hi, hello, hello, whoever you are, and if you're anywhere else, then um, you know, then go ahead and say hi wherever you're at, or you don't have to. All right, so let's jump into the news, okay, people? We're gonna do that. We're gonna look at the very first story, which has to do with the fall of the Boy Scouts, right, you guys? Now, some of you may or may not have watched our show for a long time, but what I can tell you is that we have covered this story for years. And that is the story of the Boy Scouts and how when the homosexual lobby came in to infiltrate the Boy Scouts, we were warning, as well as lots of other people, about what this is going to potentially do to the Boy Scouts. This is sad. This is a very sad story when you think about it. But this is from Tony Perkins, who is with the Family Research Council. And this was published yesterday, February 2020. This is what it says. It says here, it's one of the saddest, most predictable, I told you so moments of our generation. The Boy Scouts were where future moonwalkers and presidents learned the virtues of value and leadership has finally collapsed. Turns out the decade of compromise hasn't been kind to the Scouts, who turned in their moral compass 7 years ago to chase the approval of critics that could never win. Now, deep into the BSA's self-imposed identity crisis, the group is filing for bankruptcy. An unhappy ending we all warned was coming. For those who knew the Scouts through their proud and honorable days, the demise has been slow and painful. But this is what comes of throwing up your hands on a century of conviction, irrelevance, and untimely insolvency. For 103 of the 110 years, Boy Scouts were a pillar of principle, not that it was easy. As most of us know, the fight to live out your beliefs in this world can be an exhausting one, which, by the way, we're going to show you some other stories tonight about that. The Scouts spent years in court just for the freedom to stick to their moral code. They won, but to the organization's dismay, the battle didn't end. Waves of LGBT activists kept coming. The pressure built and built until finally in 2013, under the leadership of Rex Tillerson, headquarters gave in to the lie that compromise would be their salvation. 7 years later, the irony is there's nothing left to save. More than half a decade into this radical experiment, the group that counted Martin Luther King Jr., George W. Bush, and Buzz Aldrin as members is barely recognizable. A handful of local councils have managed to squeak by on solid reputations, but after their organization opened its arms to kids and leaders who identify as gay or transgender, membership became anemic. Then, in a failed effort to fill the ranks, they began recruiting girls, which not only angered its base, but pitted the organization in a legal war with the Girl Scouts USA. Now a program that used to be America's finest is knee-deep in Chapter 11. If you're wondering where raising a white flag on core values leads, this is it. The Scouts are a case study in moral compromise. The story of anyone who exchanges the truth for cowardly conformism. Leaders at the BSA dropped their moral mandate to accommodate what they don't believe. In the current climate, that's called inclusion. To everyone else, it's considered betrayal. Right now, too many churches, Christian colleges, even businesses are dangerously close to making the same mistake. Yep. They're so desperate or fearful or both that they're willing to water down who they are to protect the small space they're standing on. There's just one problem. The gospel's truth isn't up for negotiation, and in their rush to soften the blow of its confrontation, some believers are selling out their identity as followers of Jesus. Christians in Paul's time were no different. Like humans throughout history, they craved acceptance. I am astonished, he wrote to the Galatians, that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion or are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. The Boy Scouts wandered so far away from who they are that by the end of 2016, they even dropped their most defining characteristic: boys. In the end, it ruined them. That's the destiny of any Christian who takes the naive view that the world can be placated. It can't. True love, 1 Corinthians 13:6 tells us, is truth. It's being salt and light in a draining, hostile, unforgiving culture. Come out from them and be separate, Paul urged, because he understands that in the end, it's not our sameness with the world that transforms people. It's our distinction of standing on their truth in their midst. That may not be easy, but as Boy Scouts are finding out, it's a whole lot better than the alternative. Just so you know. Yeah, Bareface. So you were like a little cubby, weren't you?
Yeah, it was. And
Were
I
you?
finished the Cub Scout program, and I was going into the Weeblos, I think was the next
I
step.
married a cubby. Yeah, I did.
And it's like I dropped out then. It was more discipline than I could handle at that time. No, it wasn't really so much discipline. At that time, the Cubbies, we had a den mother, I guess because, I don't know. I don't know if they thought the smaller boys would be, better transition with a female leader, or just because there weren't enough men in the, you know,
Right.
early 70s, early to mid 70s to no, early 70s. Gotta think about my age. Early 1970s. Yes, I'm that old, people. Um, there weren't enough men to step up, and so a lot of our activities, it was disjointed. We had these books, the wolf badge and the bear badge. Is that the way it went? The bear
I
and
have
then
no
wolf? No,
idea.
wolf and then the bear.
My mom never put me in Girl Scouts, so
Anyway, we had this book of activities to do, to, swim so many yards and to, learn to, I don't know, start a fire with sticks or something. I don't know.
you had to swim.
Yeah,
Did you do good at it?
I managed to get
I was
the
gonna say
minimum.
because you're not the best swimmer in the world.
Anyway, so there's this book full of activities. You sign off, and then eventually, if you go through the whole book, you earn your badge that goes on your uniform. Anyway,
Kind
there
of like
were,
an Awana.
there was that. Yeah, there was that, but none of the content when we got together as a den, den of us, little Cub Scouts.
Your little
Our
cubby.
our den mother would either do an indoor activity, art project with us, or we'd go out most of the time. We went up to the elementary school where most of us went because it was after school, and and we played touch football.
So wimpy football. What's
Yeah,
wrong with tackle football, man? If you're gonna play football, you might as well go all the way and just.
yeah, I played tackle
Yeah,
football,
that's what I think.
informal games of tackle football as a teen, and be sore for days.
Hey, Barb.
Um, with no padding or anything like that, just because boys will be boys. Anyway, so there was
Or will they be girls, huh? Yeah.
these days, who knows?
Hey, Dr. Jennifer Fee is in the house.
Yeah, but
You know what today is? Today is Dr. Jennifer Fee's and my friendship. It's friendiversary on Facebook. 8 years.
well, if I'd known, I would have prepared some sort of
Speech?
confetti graphic or
Really?
something.
Oh, you would have? Oh, well, anyway.
Sorry, I didn't know. Too late to do it on the fly.
Jennifer and me have been friends for
Anyway,
a long time. What? Almost 18 years, something like that.
so for me, scouting was here's this book to go do these activities, but we'll never talk about them in any of our meetings. You just go do this stuff on the side, and when you're done, it just sort of a disconnect. But
So that's why
talk-
we left the Cubbies.
yeah, it's just like I
Gotcha.
just didn't like what is it doing for me. But I have great admiration for those who went through all the way to Eagle Scout, did their community projects, stuff like that.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Stephen Black
Hey,
is here. You're in California? Why? What are you doing in California? Wait, I should know this. I probably saw something on your Facebook and just didn't read it really good.
anyway, so
Sorry,
Anyway.
my bad.
Long story short,
Yeah, you're making
Yeah.
this long, you know.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree with the article. It just when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially God.
Oh, you're in court. Oh, you're in court. Steve's in court. He's standing up for the biblical truth, going to court. Yeah, you are.
Good thing.
He's brave.
Yep, not compromising like the
Boy Scouts of America.
I was going to say
I remember when we covered that story
the non-gender specific.
When the Boy Scouts started letting girls in, I was like, what's the point of Girl Scouts? I mean, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, and indeed there was a lawsuit.
And then of course you remember
Girl Scouts.
Parks and Recreation when oh, okay. Well, that's not good. Okay, it's not. It has nothing to do with what we thought. Anyway, what I was going to say, so you remember the episode on Parks and Recreation with Leslie Knope and Ron?
Yeah.
They went, Ron went, and then Leslie wanted to join in the scouting, and then she did this activity and brought puppies in, and all the boys wanted to go in there and hold puppies. Yeah. And then at the end, Ron, he wanted to have the manly man, type club, and it turned out that, what'd she call it afterwards?
I don't know,
but the bottom line was it was kind of a mockery of what was going on here, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, if loving girls wasn't in enough, morally straight couldn't mean anything to do with sexual orientation or identification, and then it just became everybody and all ideas are welcome, and we we have no identity at all, and that's the great thing.
So with that said, should we talk about what's going on in Finland?
We could do that.
So Randall's going to get the video ready for this. This is actually a story that is kind of, I think it's a wake-up call to Western nations, actually. Finland has had a woman who you're going to see here. I don't know how to say her name, so I'm not even going to try. Because it's a Finnish name. Yeah, it is. Anyway, but there is a woman there who's been raked through the coals. I mean, she's just like being vilified all over the place just because she believes marriage is a man and a woman, and for stuff that she did years ago, she's being attacked for it now. It's so stupid. It's like in the same type of playbook, but now. The question newsmakers are asking, is Finland about to make Christianity illegal? A Christian lawmaker is facing fines and prison. Now, I have to tell you something. Bible News Radio is seen in Finland. I literally got a donation from a person in Finland one time. One donation. I also got a donation from somebody in Sweden. So we're actually seen all over the world. So if you happen to be one of my Finland viewers, maybe there's 2 or 3 of you, I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. You can email me or go to my website, BibleNewsRadio.com, and put in a thing through our page, our contact page, and let me know what you think about it. But just tell me when you're ready, Randall.
I am ready.
All right. Okay, we're going to play this. Is it from CBN News?
Yes.
Okay, CBN News this is their footage. It's about 4 minutes.
Almost 70% of Finns are members of the National Lutheran Church. But it doesn't mean they're believers. Less than a third of Finns now say they believe in God. This historically Christian nation has not only left the faith, but has begun criminal investigations of Christians. This is a nation with a constitution that still tells the state church to proclaim a Bible-based Christian faith. So why is Finland investigating this member of parliament for proclaiming her Bible-based Christian faith? Päivi Räsänen is under 2 investigations for allegedly defaming or insulting homosexuals. The first after she shared a Bible verse on social media, aimed at Finland's Lutheran Church for promoting the homosexual lifestyle.
In my tweet, I directly cited Romans 1st chapter and verses 24 to 27 and posted a picture.
A passage which condemns homosexuality. Finland's Attorney General has now opened a second investigation concerning a 24-page pamphlet that Päivi wrote 15 years ago about biblical Christian marriage, called Man and Woman, He Created Them. Biblical teaching that the Finnish constitution says it supports.
So you thought that because of that, this investigation wouldn't go anywhere, as we speak?
Yes. I assumed. In fact, it was a surprise for me that there is even a police investigation about that case. I wouldn't have believed it.
Leif Nummela is editor of a Christian newspaper and a TV host in Finland.
It was unbelievable. It was a real surprise. And the first thought was, are they really going this far?
The Lutheran pastor who published the pamphlet Päivi wrote on Christian marriage is also under investigation. Finnish Christian broadcaster, author, and theologian Pasi Turunen says this has been a rude awakening for many Christians.
Finnish Christians have lived in a very homogeneous Christian culture. It's been very easy because everybody thinks and believes the same way pretty much. And now this has become completely a new situation for us when our faith is challenged in a public square.
Päivi says this all began in prayer when she felt led by the Lord to do something to wake up the national church in Finland on the issue of homosexuality, but now fears this investigation will silence Christians.
I'm afraid and I'm worried that this case, the criminal investigation, might frighten some Christians to hide and to keep silent.
It raises the threshold of saying anything in the public square. And in one way, I see that that's the purpose of this kind of attack, to put a high price tag on speaking your Christian mind out loud in the society.
If convicted, Päivi could be fined or even imprisoned. And both Turunen and Nummela say support for her from Finland's evangelical leaders has been weak.
We could easily have 200,000 Christians saying this is horrendous, stop persecuting Päivi Räsänen. And that would have a huge impact, but they are silent.
I would wish that the evangelical leaders would be more outspoken and bold. Otherwise, there will come time when each one of us will be in front of the firing squad.
Päivi says she's not afraid and believes God has a plan in this for Finland.
I'm waiting what God is doing because when he raises up prayers, then we can know that he's doing something.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Helsinki.
You know, I have to say that I love that woman. I really do. I think she is an amazing testimony of a Christian that has a backbone and who isn't going to waver and wimp under her biblical convictions. And I think that it's pretty cool. I really, really do. I don't think what's happening in Finland is cool, but I do find it fascinating that if the gospel of Jesus Christ wasn't real, why is there such hostility towards his word from a member of parliament who's sending a tweet from scripture, especially when the foundation of that country is supposed to be biblical Christianity? Randall?
Well, first of all, I like that she's biblical, not only standing on biblical principles,
Yeah.
but also her tweet was aimed at the Lutheran Church, the Finland's state Lutheran Church. And that's what Scripture tells us, 1 Corinthians 5. We're not to judge those who are outside, but to judge whoever calls themselves a brother. Who names themselves anyone as a believer, we are to judge. And she was right to aim at the church. I would say alarming, but it's not alarming in this culture. The outrageous thing is that we have secular people saying that she can't say that to other church members. Not only
Good point.
you could never say anything about anyone outside the church. We're going to tell, the world will tell the church what to do, and even more, the world will tell the church what to do with the church. Don't you shove your religion down my throat, as a cry or whatever. But we will tell you all day long. We'll impose, our will upon you. Tell you what you have to do in the Boy Scouts. Tell you what you have to do in your churches. What you have to do, and blah blah blah. You keep your religion within your, your four walls. And here is our instruction to tell you what to do, and to the point now, even though their state, their national constitution supports the gospel, she's facing, possible jail time or something like that, and
Yeah.
Is-
Well, what was interesting to me,
if there isn't duplicity and hypocrisy here, then
yeah, what was interesting to me is that here she is the one being persecuted,
yeah.
and she's the one encouraging other believers to not be chickens. And it goes back to, and you've heard me say this a million times, Randall, is like years ago when, we were hammering these issues every single day,
Yeah.
and there would be like a Christian right organization putting out a, you know, oh geez, seriously, is menopause brain really hitting me right now? Oh, come on. Oh, hold on. It will come to me. I was playing pickleball earlier today, and some of my friends, there's like five of us women, we're all in menopause. And just have to say that, bye, Stephen. Thanks for coming in. It's not a survey, a petition. There we go. Yeah, anyway. So, like when I wrote for Voice of the Martyrs, and we would have a petition, or the Christian right organizations would have a petition to try to lobby to get signatures on something, it's like, I would say, okay, like, you're not gonna die if you're a Christian. You sign this petition. Let's say for the Boy Scouts. You believe that only boys should get in Boy Scouts. But, some Christians are like, no, I don't want to do that because I might, be persecuted by somebody. And it's sad because it's part of the reason why nations fall, and things like that, happen. I was looking over another article, and I decided not to pull it and read it to you, but I'll tell you what it was about. It was an article talking about how Amazon.com is selling anti-Jewish books and things like Mein Kampf. And the reason why I decided not to pull it and share it with you is because I thought, well, this Israel advocacy group, which I'm all for, Israel being able to advocate against anti-Semitism. That wasn't the issue. The issue for me was, as I was reading through the article and looking at their argumentation about how they were promoting it, I decided just to go Google Barnes & Noble and see if Barnes & Noble is also selling Mein Kampf, and they are. So it's not just Amazon that's selling Mein Kampf. It's Barnes & Noble and everywhere else, probably, if I decided to go and do a good search. So it wasn't fair reporting, is my point. But still, the outrage, when Randall and I went to the GLSEN conference so many years ago, I'll never forget. I mean, well, maybe I will if I get dementia, but I hope I won't get dementia. But, I mean, it was heartbreaking to me and Randall to go to this conference to see how the LGBT lobby was targeting Christian organizations within that and children. And then we came back to our church and we tried to share this with our pastor and the leadership and other people at church. And one other person came to hear it. And that person was an activist already. So it wasn't like, it wasn't like he needed to be taught because he was already involved. And it's just how it is.
Yeah, not to draw parallels here, but there kind of are. Having just listened to an interview on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, in Nazi Germany, there were plenty of believers, and there were just a handful. People knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. Dietrich Bonhoeffer and, a handful of others looking at what was going on and knew, spoke out about it. But, not many rallied around them to say, yeah, you're right. This is an absolute wrong. It's like, well, don't want to rock the boat. And if it means people, being herded into cattle cars and sent to death camps, whatever. Who am I to say? I'm not gonna. I mean, even in extreme situations like that, where, goodness, if you're ever gonna raise your voice, do it then. But
right.
Anyway.
Well, it's people. I was telling somebody I was talking to earlier tonight. You know what? It's the people who are crazy enough, who are the weirdos that change the world, or that make change. Speaking of that, let me just say, I just want to give a personal note here. yesterday I posted on my Facebook page I could use some extra prayer. And I was having a pretty tough day yesterday. Actually, frankly, this month it's been tough. This week has been nothing but a couple of highs and lows and and all that. But really, it's, if you guys remember last year in February, I had 4 friends of mine die in 1 month. I mean, it's bad enough when one person dies in your life that you love and care about, but to have 4 people that are like very important to you and that really played a significant part in your life actually die in 1 month. The grief, it comes in waves. Sometimes you don't know how to expect it. So I had an outpouring of prayer and thankfulness on my post. I just want to say thank you to those of you who read the post and who offered up prayer for me. I pray that you would continue. I ask that you would continue to. The Lord is doing something very interesting with us, and I'm not going to say we'll be ending Bible News Radio yet, but there is a very distinct possibility, everybody, that we may be ending this show at some point. And there's many reasons for that, but we will, in due time, we'll figure it out. What I will tell you is that as of right now, the Lord has me teaching 2 local Bible studies. And he seems to be really opening up a door here locally for us to do ministry. And with the extra added work that we, have to do to earn money to support ourselves, because this doesn't do it. I just see that there could be a tide coming, a shift coming, which is why I want to let you know that if you have not supported Ariel Ministries, our sponsor, that they have been so gracious to support this show for the last 3+ years. Next month is their last month of supporting the show because they've had donations fall. And of course, we know that the numbers for this show are very low because we're being hidden and spiked on every social media platform out there. And I don't have the money to put me on Christian radio. I just don't have it. But what we do have to offer you is this 20% discount with Ariel.org. So if you go to ARIEL.org and you use that coupon code Bible News, go ahead and you can save 20% when you do that. Okay, you guys need to use that coupon code at least through the end of next month, because otherwise you're not going to save any money after that. I don't think Ariel has a discount anywhere else. Go there if you want to support our show. You can go to BibleNewsRadio.com/give and donate there. We need it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We need the money to every ministry needs money. So just give as the Lord leads. And if the money doesn't come in, this show probably will end up going away. And that's unfortunate, but there's a time and a season, people. And the season for Bible News Radio may actually be coming to an end. And I'm not just saying that. I truly believe that is probably going to happen. So there's that. Also, if you want to be a member of Legal Shield and get Legal Shield protection, identity theft protection, we talk about it all the time on here. It's actually what God's called me to in my day job now. Lord's using it in a really cool way for me to meet people and share the gospel with people. So just want to let you know that you can get that through my website. Just contact me directly. I'll set up a time to talk to you. Also, in a couple of weeks, my friend Jeff Kinley is going to be joining me to talk about this book, Interview with the Antichrist. His hour has come. Jeff Kinley, great guy, great man of God. He's a sweetie, actually. It's one of my favorite prophecy guys. So that's going to be coming in a couple of weeks next month. Anyway, we'll go from there. So I wanted to just say thank you for that, and also let you know that this next article is something to definitely pay attention to. It's titled 10 Plagues That Are Hitting Our Planet Simultaneously. Oh, did you want... Okay. I wasn't sure what Bareface was doing over there. 10 Plagues That Are Hitting Our Planet Simultaneously. And thank you, TR, fun guy. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, so... Yeah, I do praise God for the success we've had in this ministry. Actually, 16 years is a pretty good run. But it's sad to me. You know what really makes me sad about it all? What really makes it sad to me is that the funding never comes in where it's supposed to come in. It goes to the false teachers. And the other thing is, I just feel like, you know, all the social media platforms are just, they're hiding us. And so it's like, all right, well, good. You're going to hide me on social media, worldwide. Okay. So I'll tell you what, how about we go take the local market for the Lord? Because I can tell you something. I have this Bible study that just started, was not my idea. And I foresee it becoming a big thing. It's funny to me, actually. And we'll see. Because I'm like, hey, you want to come to a Bible study? It's like, yeah, sure. When is it? Okay. So you never know. You never know how God's going to use something. Will I leave the online world permanently forever? I don't know. We're still praying about it. But like I told, Randall and I talked last night about it. And I think, well, we'll know. We'll let you know. We'll keep you in the loop. But there's so many contributing factors to it. And it's discouraging to me. I'm not a numbers person. I don't care if 5 million people watch or 500 watch. What bothers me is that when I have 6,000 followers on Periscope who have said, yes, I want to follow Bible News Radio, but then Periscope doesn't show our show to those 6,000 followers. It's like, hey, it's irritating. It irritates me. I follow people and I never see that they're on either. So, but all the more reason to go local, because you can't block me when I'm in person with somebody. You can't. You just can't. Well, anyway. But anyway, let's look at these 10 plagues that are hitting the planet simultaneously. This is, in the world of prophecy, this is kind of fascinating. It says here, all of a sudden, really crazy things are starting to happen all over the world. Giant swarms of locusts are absolutely devastating entire regions. Extremely unusual storms are confounding meteorologists. Earthquake and volcanic activity are both on the rise, and 5 very dangerous diseases are sweeping across the globe. So far in 2020, it has just been one thing after another, and many are speculating about what could be ahead if events continue to escalate. The other day, my wife mentioned that one of her friends suggested that I should put together a list of all the weird stuff that's been taking place. And so this is what I've decided to do. Obviously, this was not written by me. I don't have a wife. Just know. Okay. The following is a list of 10 plagues that are hitting our planet simultaneously. Number 1, armies of locusts. As I detailed the other day, swarms of locusts the size of major cities have been devouring entire farms in Africa in as little as 30 seconds. These swarms have also been spreading throughout the Middle East, and now we have learned that they have even reached China. So there's a paragraph here. It says a gigantic swarm of locusts that belong to a plague that has ravaged millions of acres of crops across East Africa has been spotted reaching the Chinese border. Billions of the insects have destroyed food supplies across Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia in what has been described as the worst plague for decades. Number 2, extremely bizarre weather patterns. It is almost as if virtually all of the old rules have suddenly been thrown out the window. An all-time record 209 miles per hour wind gusts just hit California, and absolutely crazy storms are happening all over the planet. For example, just check out what just took place in Australia. And by the way, here in Tennessee, somebody posted on my Facebook, I think it was, they were talking about how weird it was that their weather went from like 50 degrees to 70 degrees in a day. And I started laughing. I said, well, clearly you've never lived in Tennessee where it can go from 19 degrees to 55 the next day. And a whole bunch of people from Texas commented and said, apparently you've never lived in Texas because it the variances are ridiculous. And I think that's why a lot of people here where I live are getting sick, because the air is freezing one day and then it's like summer the next day. It's really weird. But anyway, this talks about Australia. It says here, Sydney has been thrown into chaos by a devastating storm that saw 2 months of rainfall in just 2 days, forcing mass evacuations, leaving 150,000 homes without power, and prompted warnings not to drive to work. The storm dumped 400 of millimeters of rain on the city over the weekend, causing mayhem for commuters on Monday morning, with roads blocked, ferries canceled, and trains suffering major delays across the network. Number 3, unprecedented flooding. We are seeing unusual flooding all over the world right now, and the flooding that is devastating the southern U.S. at this moment is being called unprecedented. In Jackson, Mississippi, hundreds of residents either watched their homes flood over the weekend or worried their residents would soon be drenched as the Pearl River crested Monday at 36.8 feet, its third highest level ever recorded, behind only in 1979 and 1983. Calling the Jackson floods historic and unprecedented, Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said in a Sunday press conference that we do not anticipate the situation to end anytime soon. It will be days before we are out of the woods and the waters recede. Number 4, major earthquakes. Really big earthquakes are happening with such frequency now that it's very difficult for me to write about them all. For example, a magnitude 7.7 quake recently struck off of the coast of Jamaica. And then it goes on to say here there was that it shook people in the Caribbean or Caribbean, depending on where you're from.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, and as far away as Miami, a tsunami of 0.4 feet was recorded in the Cayman Islands at Georgetown, but no tsunami was observed at Port Royal, Jamaica, or Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. Number 5, unusual volcanic eruptions. Seismic activity has been rising all over the globe, and over the past couple of months, we have seen volcanoes all over the world pop off like firecrackers. One of the most notable eruptions that we have seen in recent years or days was the most powerful eruption of Mount Merapi in 90 years. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Number 6, the coronavirus. This is interesting. I've heard a lot about this. Needless to say, the coronavirus outbreak in China has been getting more headlines than anything else on this list. The numbers continue to rise, and many are speculating that this could potentially become the worst global pandemic since the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. In a desperate attempt to keep the truth from getting out, the World Health Organization is asking major social media companies to censor their users. While I personally think this was a planned virus, and that it was introduced into the population, and I think it's part of Bill Gates trying to wipe out the population, because I believe that the World Federation, all that stuff, I believe it's part of the Illuminati's plan to try to kill people off because they're trying to decrease world population. And I think there's way more hype around it than needs to be. And that's why I haven't talked about it, because I think it's stupid to talk about it, because I think it's, I don't know what the right word is, but anyway, that's all I'll say on that. Number 7 is the African swine fever, also known as pig Ebola, has already wiped out millions upon millions of pigs in China, and it has now spread to more than 40 countries. The price of pork is absolutely skyrocketing in China right now, and to help fill the demand, the Chinese are increasingly importing pork from U.S. sources. Tyson Food, Inc. says it's just starting to see the benefits of the African swine fever outbreak in China, which includes a 600% year-over-year increase in pork orders to China in the fiscal first quarter. Now, isn't it interesting that the keto diet is so popular, and now all of a sudden bacon is being hit? Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Okay, anyway. Number 8, the H1N1 swine flu. Unlike the African swine fever, the H1N1 swine flu can actually kill humans. In fact, it's already killed more people outside of China than the coronavirus outbreak has. For instance, 13 people in Taiwan died from the virus in one recent week alone. And anyway, I was just saying this to go on to say this is horrible, of course. But remember a couple years ago, the Ebola virus was the big thing. the whole world was freaking out about it, and it turned out that it really wasn't that big of a deal ultimately in the large scope of things, the way that they try to freak the population of the world out. But
It's a serious virus.
it is serious, but it's not like
deadly,
it's not like it's
as widespread
as they want to make it. That's what I'm saying. All right, number 9, the H5N1 bird flu. This strain of the bird flu caused a massive global scare a number of years ago, and now it is experiencing a stunning resurgence. China has had to kill thousands of chickens so far, and experts are warning that this outbreak could be just getting started. You notice how many of these are tied back to China, which hates God, by the way? Have you noticed this?
China. Love China.
There's a guy on TikTok who does Obama and Trump impersonations. My friend Jennifer pointed me to this guy. He's hilarious. Anyway, number 10, the H5N8 bird flu. So that's another one. And I think that's it on this list. Anyway, the point is, I think the point of this list is, does that thing tell you who wrote this? I can't see because I distilled the page. I don't know.
I did too,
Oh, you did?
but
Okay.
Michael Snyder,
Okay. And what website was that on originally?
The End of the American Dream.
The End of the American Dream.
No,
Well,
but it's
okay.
endoftheamericandream.com.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's that. Are there any comments I need to read? Nope. Guess not. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Let's look at the Victoria one, the big victory. Court rejects atheist suit, says 79-year-old public cross is constitutional. This is actually good news, which I'm happy to report. A historic 34-foot World War II era cross can remain standing in a Pensacola, Florida park, thanks to a federal appeals court ruling that pointed to a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision. The 3-0 decision Wednesday by the U.S. 11th Circuit Court of Appeals reversed its 2018 ruling, which was handed down prior to a landmark opinion by the Supreme Court in 2019 that let stand a World War I memorial. The Supreme Court decision in American Legion v. American Humanist Association was considered a major victory for supporters of religious-themed monuments, and it had a major impact on the Pensacola case. The American Humanist Association and the Freedom from Religion Foundation, two atheist organizations, sued to have the Pensacola cross removed. Having reconsidered the case in light of American Legion, we conclude, as the Supreme Court did there, that the cross does not offend the Constitution, Judge Kevin Newsom wrote for the court. The cross's presence on city property does not violate the Establishment Clause.
Good for him.
The cross has stood at the same location for 79 years. And anyway, it talks more about that. But anyway, yeah, so finally a little bit of sanity from the courts. But, it goes back to the idea that if Christianity and the Bible weren't true, then why is there such a hostile attempt to silence it, right? I mean, you can save yourself a lot of time by not studying the history of Christianity or trying to disprove it by looking at the enemies of Christianity, Look at the enemies of the Jews. Look at the enemies of Christianity. And then look at the enemies of Islam. Look at the enemies of Mormonism. Look at the enemies of, Wicca. And see how people are trying to silence all those other things. It just doesn't happen because it's not true. But Christianity is true. And that's what's crazy, is it's true. It's actually very true, And this book, The Interview with the Antichrist, we're going to talk about it because at some point he will arise, people. And a lot of people believe he's alive today. And, ready to come to power. All right. Okay, we got about 4 minutes. Okay. All right, one last article here. Most evangelical Christians live outside North America and Europe, a new study finds. Well, so it says here, a new study has concluded that the most evangelical Christians do not live in North America or Europe. That should concern you, people. Just from that headline. According to French researcher Sebastian Fath, most actually reside across Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Of the roughly 660 million evangelicals in the world, roughly 215 million are thought to live in Asia, while 66 million are based in China, 28 million in India, 16 million in Indonesia, 13 million in the Philippines, and 9 million in South Korea. It is estimated that around 123 million live in South America, mostly across Brazil, Argentina, and Guatemala. North America is thought to boast around 107 million evangelicals, 93 in the United States, 10 million in Mexico, 4 million in Canada. Shockingly, Europe is host to just 23 million. Fath's study aligns with a previous report released by the Pew Research Center, which highlighted the same explosion of faith across regions outside the United States. Christianity has grown enormously in sub-Saharan Africa and the Asia-Pacific region, where there were relatively few Christians at the beginning of the 20th century. Indeed, many believe that China, where Christian persecution is at extreme levels, will contain the most believers of any country in the world by the year 2035. It wouldn't surprise me now if China had more Christians than anywhere in the world anyway, just by virtue of how big China is and how big the underground church is there. And it says here, one thing is clear, evangelical Christianity is spreading far beyond North America, and this trend looks set to continue indefinitely. Most Christians in the world today are not Westerners and do not speak English as their mother tongue. Biblical scholar N.T. Wright noted in an interview with the Christian Post, who's owned by the Moonies, by the way. Anyway, so it's funny, and this is just, to me, another sign of the times as far as the end of times, because I believe America was established to promote Christianity to the rest of the world, and I think that has happened. I think in the 240 years or whatever it is that we've been a nation, that we have lasted longer than most nations. I think it's frankly because of God's mercy more than anything. Not because I think the church in America is so great. And I'm not saying the church in America is horrible, but what I am saying is that we haven't suffered the persecution that other Christians throughout the world have. And I think it would be interesting, because it's very sobering to me, having studied the persecuted church for a very long time, that if persecuted Christians around the world look at Christian Americans and they're amazed at our faith because we're so wealthy here in this country. We have so many distractions. We don't have to rely on God for anything basic, right? That's how they really look at us. We look at them and we go, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing because you can be put in jail, whipped, tortured, raped, and everything, and you're not going to deny Christ. But what we don't see is we don't see the spiritual war going on, right? God knows you, and he knows what you will stand for ultimately, and he knows what will bring you down ultimately. That's why I love the book of Job, because the devil had to have the permission of God to do what he did to Job. And Job, the Lord knew that Job was going to do the right thing. He knows the end from the beginning. And so I think that the faith of American believers is no less than the faith of Chinese or Nigerian or wherever else believers. I just think that we like to think that the faith is greater because there's physical punishment or government involvement, persecution involved. But honestly, I think it takes more faith in some ways to live in a country where you're given everything and you're handed, it's handed to you on a platter. Because, like the rich young ruler who walked away sad, we have to constantly give up the love of money, right? We have to constantly give up the pursuit of money and making that a god in our lives. And what's interesting to me is that I don't do this show for the money, right? And I've had people come in, oh, you people, all you do is ask for money. Well, God's word says that a laborer is worthy of a wage, right? I ultimately know that in the end, God will give me what He will reward me with in heaven, right? I never started out this show for money, and I still don't do it for money, because if I did, I wouldn't be here. But what I can tell you is that those people who are the false teachers who are out there lying to the people about money and how to get it are appealing to the greed nature of those who are giving the money, because the people that give to the false teachers are doing it for greedy reasons, because these false teachers are lying to them, saying, well, if you give, then you're going to get all this back. Well, one thing you're guaranteed, and this is what I will say this, the Bible says that for all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus, you will be persecuted, period. Right? And godliness with contentment is a means of great gain. Right? There's no money involved there. You know, and it's sad to me, because I think that the deception is huge in the world. In fact, you know, I've been studying in John, because that's what I've been teaching in my Bible study, and something that I learned this week that I thought was interesting was, and I got this out of the Yeshua book, by the way, from Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum, was that, you know, we look at the story of the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman that Jesus went to go, and, you know, he shows up there in Samaria, and he goes and he says to the Samaritan woman, go get me some water. And she responds, and this is paraphrased, obviously, you can go read it yourself, but she basically responds saying, why are you a Jew talking to me, you know, and asking me for water? And Jesus responds back and says, well, if you knew who it is that's asking you for water, then you would have asked me for water, and I would have given you living water. Well, there's something really important in that exchange, right? If you don't understand the background, you're not going to understand this exchange. But one of the things that I learned this week that I thought was really cool is that, I mean, it's semi-common knowledge that why this is such a powerful story is because Jews and Samaritans didn't like each other, okay? There was a racist thing there. The Samaritans were considered half-breeds, and so the Jews were like, no, you know, and there was this big fight about the land and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. It was never said that Jews and Samaritans never talked to each other. That wasn't the issue. They always communicated, just not nicely. When Jesus asked this woman for water, he didn't offer to pay her for it. And that was actually kind of a rule in that culture, that if a Jew is going to ask a Samaritan for something, they need to pay her. They need to pay that person. I just thought that was interesting, because this woman didn't come back to the Lord knowing this, and didn't come back to the Lord and say, well, aren't you going to pay me for it? Just a thought, people. Just, it's kind of interesting why that was there. But there's a lot there in God's word, people. You got to read it. Is that Shelley I see that just came in? And Dr. John, Mr. Baldy. Hey, how you doing, John? Nice to see you too. Is that Shelley? I can't see you. Yeah. Nice to see you. All right, well, anyway, so, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it, right? So, Randall, you have any closing thoughts? Like we do on our stretch call, we always have somebody give a closing thought before the close of the show. I guess you're the only one here that could actually do that.
No, I wasn't. I guess I never stick around. And I've heard the call before.
I've only been on this call a year.
Yeah. I don't recall a closing thought. I know that there's the quote master at the top that gives a quote from Anonymous usually, or someone.
I think she has a list of 20 quotes that she just rotates, because it's usually the same quote. But anyway, whatever. No, Timmer, the person who's leading the call passes it off to Timmer at the end usually, who gives a couple of closing thoughts.
Oh, closing remarks.
And
okay.
then the assignments are given.
Okay.
Yeah, the
All
daily assignments. No.
Well, closing remarks, you know, I would boil it down to what you say at the conclusion of every episode. Is It's about the best closing remark that I could give.
Yeah, okay, so with what Bareface is alluding to, my allergies getting to me. It's kind of weird how that happens right before my show almost every week. So, you know what I always say, people, if you're here, you say it with me. Be bold. Stand up. And go with God, people, because he loves you. He really does. And you know what? Just do it. Don't let the fear of man or politics or anything be like that lady in Finland and just say, where prayers are going up, God is doing something. And he is. So it's time to go local and go do it.